Hi guys, Kim here. Welcome to Backyard Blooms. In today's video, we're going to talk about the plant haul that I got from Logan's Nursery in Raleigh, North Carolina. I had to take my Sasha girl to the NC State veterinarian this past week, and while she was there, she was dropped off and I had like 2 or 3 hours to find something to do. So what is a garden girl going to do? So I looked up local nurseries and I found that Logan Nursery had like a 4.5 star. So it was only about 3.5 to 5 miles away from NC State, so I thought I'd go ahead and check it out. And boy, was I glad that I did. I was like in love with that nursery, and I'll show you little clips of that nursery as well in this video. But while I was there, Leslie, I came upon her and she was so very helpful, and I asked her, I was like, if there was any plant that was here that you would want to buy and plant in your garden, what would it be? And she suggested a couple of things, and one was a viburnum, but I already had a yin and yang viburnum that was very close to that. But then she asked me if I had a Daphne, and I've never even heard of a Daphne, but this is a winter Daphne, and it gets pink blooms in the winter time. Now I was just looking this plant up about the specifics of what it likes. So this plant likes dapple shade, so I'm really scared to plant this on the west side where I was going to plant it. So I think I'm going to plant it right here in this skinny side garden, because this gets just morning sun and no afternoon sun, where on the west side of my house gets like it gets some shade in the middle because we're between two houses, but in the afternoon it gets late sun. And here in Charlotte, North Carolina, it gets really hot and humid in the summertime, so I don't think this plant's going to be that happy there. So I'm going to change my mind and put that on this skinny side so it'll be really happy. So the next plant that I fell in love with while I was there is called Tiny Tuff right here, and it is another Proven Winners brand, because you can see that big PW on there as well. So everything that I'm planting on that side, I don't want it to get humongous. I am planning on planting 3 of the lilac hardy hibiscus, and those get 5 feet tall. So that's going to be my main pop of color on that side over there. And then everything else I'm trying to like do no more than 3 feet tall. So this plant right here will get 1.5 to 2 feet tall, and it does like sun to part shade. Now, with my experience with hydrangeas, the only hydrangea that I have figured out that likes the sun here in our zone of Charlotte is the panicle hydrangeas. This one is not a panicle hydrangea. This is a reblooming mountain hydrangea. So just to be safe, I'm going to put this more towards the center of the house, because like I said, it's between two houses, and that center area is going to get a little bit more afternoon shade than the very edges of the house. So Tiny Tuff Stuff is what this one's called. And I'm assuming that with the colors, whether it's blue or pink, depending is on our soil. So I'm curious to see what kind of bloom I'm going to get right here. But this is what the plant looks like. There's no blooms on here just quite yet, but a nice amount of green foliage on that plant so far. So let me tell you about Tiny Tuff Stuff, the reblooming mountain hydrangea. So its characteristics are pretty, reliable, just plain tough, which is why they call it Tiny Tuff Stuff. Hydrangea is a very hardy, colorful plant that doesn't disappoint. Blooms even after harsh winters, very compact. So there you go. Takes sun to part shade. It is reliable, reblooming, easy care, no pruning needed. Does well in perennial beds, edging, containers. It gets 1.5 to 2 feet tall. So it says spacing about 1.5 to 2 feet also. It likes moist, well-drained soil. So of course it is definitely going to drain well over there because we're on that big hill. And then to keep it moist, I'm going to have drip in there as well. And then it seldom needs pruning. And it says deer resistance is low. There you go. So the next plant that I'm going to talk about that I purchased, and I bought 3 of each, by the way. I bought 3 hydrangeas. I only bought 1 of these Daphnes because this plant was kind of pricey. And then I bought 3 Serendipities and 3 of these Dianthuses. I'm not a big fan of Dianthuses because I don't really love carnations, but this flower right here just really kind of piqued my interest. The foliage is kind of like, I like stuff that just sways in the wind like this does. And then the foliage is like more of a silverishy color, so it gives a different kind of look up against this really green dark foliage. When you put different characteristics of different plants next to each other, that like different colors and then different textures, then everything in your garden is just gonna pop more. So this is a Dianthus. Its name is Bath's Pink. Bath's Pinks. Its bloom time is spring through the summer. And of course, the bloom color is pink. It likes light sun, and water is moderate, and the height gets 10 to 12 inches, and it is hardy in 4 to 8. Just let me show you this foliage a little bit closer. So it's pink, but it almost looks like a lilac or kind of a purplish color as well. And I just really love the foliage there. Really, really pretty. And you can see if I paired it with this hydrangea, that's totally different with the textures. You see how they kind of pop off each other there? So the next plant that I'm going to talk about is Serendipity. I already have this plant in my garden and I loved it, but it's in an area that I really can't see it very well because it's on the other side of my cottage garden. So I'm tempted to actually maybe replant those 3, have 3 on one side and 3 on the other since I like it really well. So one of my favorite spring bulbs that are not, they're almost popping out but not quite in their full bloom is an allium. So I planted 25 of those in the springtime, and I'll share with you those, and I'll show you a picture of what they look like now, but they have not quite opened up really well. Well, that's what this Serendipity reminds me of. It is an allium, and it is part of the onion family, and deer do not like anything that has anything to do with onions because they don't like the taste. But this takes full sun to part sun, and it is 15 to 20 inches, and it is a perennial, and it's in the allium family. And like I said, it just kind of looks like a little mini-me of the alliums that I've already planted up for the spring bulbs. This is what it looks like. And I'll try to find an image of that when it bloomed last year. Bees loved this plant. They were all over it. I was just in love. I love to see when a bee just loves a plant. And of course there's no blooms on it yet, but this is what it looks like. Kind of looks like grass. So it has a pretty foliage to it, even though when it's not blooming as well. So I just wanted to share with you about my week. Last week was pretty hectic for me. I had a brand new ultrasound machine that I had to learn. And on top of that, I filmed last week almost all day Sunday, and then when I went to go edit it, I didn't have any of my audio to it. So really not sure what happened. I feel like my phone was acting up, so I turned it off and turned it back on, and hopefully this audio, and I've checked it a couple of times before I videoed this video. But anyways, so just been kind of struggling this week, and I just want to let you all know that we all have days like this. A lot of times when I video, I may feel like that this is easy to me. None of this comes easy to me. So sometimes to do like a 1-minute short, it took me like 20 minutes last week because I just couldn't find my words. So I hope you give me some grace. And you guys, like, I went to the bathroom today and even put my underwear on backwards. Like, who does that? Please tell me I'm not the only one that does that. So anyways, I am really excited about this week since last week was so hectic for me. This week we are going to Italy to see my son Kyle. He's in the military and he is in the Army in the Airborne in the 173rd. So he has like a few days off. So we're going to go to Milan and he's going to meet us there. And we're going to go to Lake Como. We're going to go to Venice. We're going to go to Sorrento. And then from Sorrento, we're going to do some, my husband Paul and son Kyle just loves history. So we're going to see Pompeii, we're going to climb the Mount Vesuvius, and then we are going to go see Positano, Capri, and then see the National Museum in Naples where all the Pompeii stuff is. So really excited about that. And then from Sorrento, we're going to go to Rome for 2.5 days. So I'm trying to get some ahead of my videos so you guys can have content, and then hopefully while I'm there, I'll be able to share some content with you as well. And I can always find a pretty foliage and pretty gardens everywhere, and they have what they call villas there. So I'm pretty excited to share all that experience with you, and just wanted to let you know how my week was going and that we all struggle. And I just had to say, pull your big girl panties up today, Kim, and took a shower and done my hair and decided to come out here and do some videos and do some planting. This is a lot of work showing this all on video. I'm going to plant these first 3 serendipities with you on film, and then after I'm done with these 3, I'm going to plant the other 6, and then I'll do a little plant tour of all 9 of these plants in the ground as well. And also, all the way down there, do you see that magnolia all on the way on the very end? That has some dabbled sun right there in the corner, so might put that Daphne right there. Well, as you can see, I don't have any kind of markers in this way. I don't have drip in the system yet, but I'm going to eventually after I get a few plants in, and probably in the next month or so, then I'm going to do drip in this area, and I'll make a video of that as well. But I kind of just mark where I want to make the plant right here by just wiggling the pot right here, and then you guys can see, let me move this back a little bit, and then I'm going to move all this mulch out of my way. Now, if you remember, when I developed this flower garden right here, I put a really good amount of compost in this area. So this is a really good thick layer of mulch, which is always good for brand new beds, especially when, like, I put this over top some sod, remember? So I don't want to get any of the sod any light, so it won't go through my flower bed. And then of course I have a really healthy dose of compost right here that's underneath this mulch right here. So I'd say I probably have, I don't know, it's a good thick, about a 1/4 of an inch of compost. So this is going to get mixed up into this compost right here is going to get mixed up into the hard clay that I have right here in the ground. So I'm using my auger. Like I said, whenever you're removing this pot, put your palm onto the foliage right here, just real gentle. Turn the pot upside down and push through the hose right here, just like so. Make sure your container, the dirt, is not dry when you're putting it into the ground. So I actually watered these right before I came over here to place these plants. So put that down right there. So I'm going to remove some of this soil and put it into this container that I just took the plant out. And then I have to add my biotone. compost right here. I don't measure, I just use a healthy dose of it, like so. And then I take my auger again, and then if I didn't have any kind of compost, I would throw compost in there and then mix it all up. If you have any weeds or anything like that, go ahead and just remove them from the area. Like I have a couple of pieces of sod there. And this is what my soil looks like after I amended it. Doesn't that like look healthy? It's had my biotone, my compost, and my original clay soil. So this is what makes my plant super happy, along with my drip. If you take it from me, like everybody's like, you know, I have a green thumb, but I like plant things. And I always say, like, buy a $20 plant and dig a $50 hole, right? So I always like amend the soil for one, and then I always buy good quality plants. I love Proven Winners. I like Monrovia. Those are my probably 2 favorite brand names in plants. And then I also have drip to every garden that I have here because it's hot here. We have hot, humid, and then plants don't like it. They get unhappy and they like consistent water. All right, now remember when I told you that I like to keep it an inch or so above the soil line, right? So here's my soil line right here. Probably could put it maybe a little bit deeper, but I think this is gonna be fine. And then I'm gonna probably need to go a little bit deeper. Go. I think that'll be fine. All right, and just backfill it with your soil that's already amended there. And this is what I had when I dug out originally. And then I tap it with my foot to get all the air pockets out. Okay, so if you have any compost, I like to top dress it. So I usually have land and sea. Whenever I go to Jenny with Creekside and buy my plants, I buy several bags of land and sea. I'm sorry I carried this over. It wore me out. It's quite heavy. But anyways, I haven't been to Creekside in the last couple of weeks, and I'm not going to get there until after I get back from Italy. So I bought Black Cow. The reason why I have Black Cow on hand is because I have 4 David Austin roses coming tomorrow called Munstead Wood that we're going to put in this garden here as well, and I needed compost to plant that. So since I have it, and I'm not going to need all of that, I bought 2 big bags of this, and that's what this compost looks like. It doesn't smell because it's aged, so don't think it smells like cow manure, even though it is from that. It doesn't smell because it is aged. And then I'm just going to top dress this with that right there, and that'll just give it a little bit of extra fertilizer for these plants to be happy. So now that I got my plant planted and I have top dressed it with compost, I'm just going to pull this mulch back over top of it and make it look nice and neat. If you make a mess and you're worried about making a mess into your mulch after you plant, because you know that clay soil doesn't look real pretty on top of this real pretty black mulch, then I always just grab a bag or 2 and just kind of top dress it. If you make a mess. Bucket as well. That way I have enough to top dress it. So I've gotten all the way down to where I just have nothing but compost. So I might want to be careful with the where that flag is. See it anywhere. Careful, it must have just hit a rock, so whenever it will stop on you whenever it hits something like that, it'll just completely stop, and then you have to like hit it into reverse and pull it back out and then put it back forward again. Let's see, just trying to be more careful. Let me see if I can find a rock. Feel any rocks? It's trying to hit some of this deep roots of that sod. I'm putting it right there, but I'm not going to leave it there because I don't want it to root into my garden. Alright, so I'm going to take my plant out. Like I said, make sure you keep your plant tag, at least one of them. Be sorry if you don't keep at least one of them. So since I have the compost right here, I'm just going to throw a couple of handfuls of that in there, like so. Don't overdo it though. You want to use about probably 15%, maybe amendments, and that's it. Alright. Roll tone. These apart. You see what I'm doing here? I'm not going to like really break down. If it was really root bound, you could take your pruners and just kind of like cut into it. But I'm just going to kind of loosen these up a little bit like that, so they'll grow in all directions and won't just keep growing like right into a circle like they are already. Like so. Now I am on a hill. I don't want my plants to be like this. I like them to be more up and down. So just kind of eyeball it, the positioning of it. Yeah. There was my rock. I found it. That's why it did that jerking. So you have to be really careful when you hit a rock. That's what it does. But found it. Bye. Alright, so I backfilled and now I'm top dressing. If you forget to put your biotone in the hole and you already got your plant planted, go ahead and just put it on top. And then again, just getting all the air bubbles out. This is a perennial. It's going to come back every year. It's so pretty. This is one of my favorite perennials. This one will not bloom until a little bit later on in the year. But, you know, like, it's got pretty foliage for right now into your garden. It's kind of flowy with the air. And then when everything else is already like dying out on you, you got some really pretty blooms. And like I said, the bees love it. Love it. Move all this out of the way. So I'm planting 3. I like to plant sets of 3s, 5s, 7s, like odd numbers. So I've got 1, 2, 3. I'm just gonna try to like plant these evenly apart. Looks good right there. I'll put some of this mulch in here. Move it out of the way. Another one. Hard to believe that these rhizomes are so down into this grass right here. And it didn't want to grow good at all on this side. sometimes when you're up on this hill, you might have to put a little bit more dirt on this side than this side, because I'm gonna plant it straight up and down, not crooked. And then I'm gonna top dress it. In the springtime, top dressing with compost is a great fertilizer as well. For my roses, I do that. I do both. I do fertilizer with this foam products, and I do compost. All that Bermuda rhinestones that I dug up. I want to get out. And my rock. And of course, here's my mulch. I still have my mulch from over here too. Plant tag. So now that I got those 3 plants in the ground, I'm gonna go ahead and plant the other ones. And when I get to the Daphne where the trees dappled, I'll video that one for you. But I'm gonna plant the exact same way. So just make your hole a lot bigger than the container. I'd say 2 to 3 times larger than the container. Of course, those were 1 gallons, and the hydrangeas are gonna be a 3 gallon, so they're gonna be a little bit harder for me to plant. But when I plant those, I'll just make 3 different areas, and then I'll mix it all up. So I'll do like 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and then I'll mix it all up with the auger as well. So, you know, it's springtime right now. We've had a lot of rain. If I was planting in June or July, like I would be planting like in concrete. That's how bad it would be. So try to get your plants in early spring, late fall. It'll be a lot easier on you. Sometimes I had to get my husband to get like an axe pick, I guess that's what you call it, to break up the soil. Like, it was ridiculous because it was, like I said, just hard as a rock. And this is an easy time to plant right now. So let me get all this planted, and at the very end of the video, I'll go back and do like a little tour and show you where everything was planted. So I have one more thing to be planted, and this one likes to be in dabbled shade, and this is that Daphne, the winter Daphne. So this is my container right here. So I got a hole about right here that I'm gonna dig up. This is variegated and it's an evergreen, so I'm pretty excited about this. All right, so when I told you that this is more for like a annual or a grande, I'm gonna make 3 different holes and then I'll combine the 3 holes together. save just a little bit to top dress it. And then I'm almost out of this biotone starter, so I'm just going to use all of it. And then we're going to I feel like, this consistency of the soil right here gives these plants a really good start, because this clay sucks, you guys. I mean, there's just no other good term to put it. It's just not great soil. So by putting the compost and the biotone in there to help stimulate the root growth and giving it fertilizer every spring, that gives this plants what it needs. And then it's a big enough hole and the soil is loose enough that the roots can like spread in here and have enough room to grow and be happy. So I'm just going to gently take this out of the container. The roots are very happy. I'm going to use the same container and put some of this dirt in there. And I'll use this to backfill with. Now, another secret that I feel like that I can give you, or another tip, is to make sure that you don't plant it too deep and that it has about, here's the soil line. So just right above the soil line here, about 1 inch to 1.5 inches above the soil line. Do you see this, guys, right here? So if anything, we can like mound the soil around the plant here. And then I got a big layer of mulch also, so that's gonna help. Also, so since this clay soil does not drain well, also by mounding it up, it brings the water flow away from the plant instead of like going into the container. You never want like it to be like a donut to where that water will run into your plant. Then you're going to get root rot and your plant is not going to be happy. So here was the base. We want to keep that still. This is where your roots are going to get oxygen right here, so we don't want to cover that up. And then, like I said, I'll always get air pockets out. I thought I was done. I thought I was done planting, and then I forgot about this one. I was like, oh, I've got to go get it done. I'm leaving to go see my son next week, and I don't want to ask anybody else to have to water these plants for me. All right. All the compost is out of that bag. Went through 2 bags of compost today. 2 big bags of compost. Then bring your mulch back up. Make sure you leave this right here. You don't want to cover it. Make your mulch nice and pretty. And then we're going to water it in. So a full morning of planting and we're done. So I did quite a bit this morning. My husband Paul got me started with digging some holes, and then I got things planted. So this is the winter Daphne right there that I told you about that takes dappled sun. So I think it should be pretty happy there because this magnolia tree right here is going to provide it some shade. and it will stay an evergreen. So I wanted something here as an evergreen. And then the 4 David Austin roses right here. So if you can picture what I'm trying to envision, I've got 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. In the middle, I want to do some kind of like obelisk with maybe a clematis growing on it, and then something filled in the middle. Something airy, a little bit taller, maybe Gara, that would be pretty. I think Russian sage would be gorgeous, but I can't get my Russian sage to do well here. But maybe it's worth another try. Or lavender would be pretty right there inside. So can you see where the roses are? 1, 2, 3, 4. And then right in the middle there is what I was trying to envision. And then on the outer edge, maybe some type of little evergreen, not really a boxwood, a sprinter boxwood, but something smaller like the teeny tot arborvitaes, possibly. And then this is the Dianthus that we got planted. And the week before that was the Amsonia. And then we'll just start filling in this garden as much as we can, little by little. I like unusual stuff, something that's different. This is the Limelight Standard Hydrangea tree. And this was the teeny Tuff Stuff Hydrangea. It says it takes full sun or part shade, but this afternoon we'll get shade. So I'm hoping that it will do well here. If not, I can move it to the skinny side garden. I'm gonna make sure that I give it a lot of water though. And then down here on the other end, like I said, I like to plant in 3s. I have 3 of the Tuff Stuff Hydrangea, 1, 2, and then the other on the other end, and then repeated the Dianthus right there as well. Can you see how you have like different foliage up against each other right here? So we've got that. And then in this area right here, I planted those bare root cotton candies. So we'll see how they turn out. I'll throw a picture of what it would look like, what I hope it looks like. So I have 3 in that area. I try to keep that grass away from this because that's not a grass, but it still looks like a grass. And these are the Serendipity Alliums. I planted 3 of those, so I like them so much that I'm gonna get my hands on another 3 and put it on the opposite side. And then the Cloud Storm Amsonia. Look how pretty this rose is, y'all. Oh, it's gonna look so pretty when it's in bloom. And then again, another Limelight Hydrangea. And I hear some kind of alarm. So starting to look great here. That way. Okay, my friends, I hope this video was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends.